Today we've got probably about half an acre here. You might call it my next door neighbor. She lives just a quarter mile or just a little over a quarter mile down the road from my house, and this had all grown up before she bought the property, and they've had an excavator in here maybe 2 months ago and cleared most of this out. Well, it's grown up again now because, yeah, well, we just didn't get around to it, right? We need to get this so she can seed it and mow it and just get it all under control. I'm not sure how to do that right now. What I started with here was the disc, and I wanted to run the disc because I was afraid to till it. I was afraid to get in here with the tiller. I didn't know how big the roots were that were left. I just, afraid to rip my tiller to pieces. I've got this little 5-foot disc here. It's just not heavy enough. Right? It's just taken forever to be able to do this. I believe we could get it knocked down. You can see from this one strip that I've worked on, I've been over this probably a dozen times, maybe more, that we're beginning to get that knocked down. I'll just let you know, I don't have that much patience, so we're gonna have to come up with another plan, and I have a couple of more ideas to try. Let's get started. Okay, so this is Christy's approach to every problem. Yep, Vinny. Vinny and the power rake is almost always a good choice. The thinking in this case is that we'll try to use Vinny to get some of this biggest limbs and stuff sort of sorted out. Oh, I'm telling you, the poison ivy in there is awful. So maybe we can get some of that knocked out too. It's not working easily for her, I promise you that. I'll get it. This is the type of stuff we're talking about.
Okay, fine. I'm gonna go straight to my favorite weapon.
You can see me off the Ventrac back there. I got a limb stuck between the tire and one of the hydraulic lines. The neighbor and her boys came running over to help me try to get that limb unstuck.
They look like they're under control, so I'm gonna till baby till. Haven't had this tiller on in a long time, and I chose it today for a few reasons. First, it's the only 6-footer that I've got, and with the 3046R, it's a pretty good match. Second, it's a bit heavier duty than some of the other tillers I have.
Chickens are liking it.
And if I ever needed heavy duty, it was for this project. I was quite skeptical that I would be able to till even after she had run the power rake. The third reason might even be more interesting. I guess you could say this tiller is a collector's item at this point. It's from Monroe Toughline, a company in Mississippi. Well, I should say a former company in Mississippi. Yep, it's out of business. This was a fairly well-known brand in the Southeast. We've shown a lot of their products actually over the years, and we've been happy with them.
Here you get a glimpse of the neighbor's tractor inspired by our tractors.
Well, for me, the tiller is always the go-to attachment. I knew this was pretty tough space for it, but it's come through. Just a couple of passes through here has really made this look a lot better.
Before we finish the discussion of Toughline, I've got a lot of questions about this grapple. This grapple comes from Precision Manufacturing, and you can purchase it at agfolks.com and use code TTWT there and you get 5% discount. Two sizes, this is the 327 and then there's also the 320 for subcompact and slightly larger tractors.
I was using the power rake to try to push some of the branches out of the way and knock down some of the weeds. I was having some trouble because the weeds would get wrapped around the power rake. Sometimes when too much got wrapped around it, I'd have to stop and reverse the direction of the power rake. That would allow some of the material to fall off, and then I could start back at it again.
Christy was doing a great job, as this was not easy. It was not well suited for the power rake, but quite frankly, it wasn't well suited for any attachment that we have, and she was getting it done. I really enjoy working with her on these projects, especially when we've got these radios that we can talk to each other. It makes the camera work more difficult for her, but I really have a lot of fun and we can get a lot more done when we're working together. You might notice that I could use the Grapple as a rake and go across there and pick up some of the brush and limbs and everything, but I tended to get more dirt than what I really wanted to, even when I tried to shake it out. Now back to Monroe Toughline. I guess they've been out of business or almost out of business now for quite some time. I didn't have any idea, as I didn't really keep in very good contact with them. They were a fairly large manufacturer of the Frontier product line for Deere. And without going into too much detail, let's just say that in this case, being one of those manufacturers didn't guarantee riches. It's been a tough year on ag or rural lifestyle equipment manufacturers. Ventrac, of course, is out of business at this point. It's hard to really count them anyway, as they were a startup in a totally new industry. Everything Attachments went to bankruptcy earlier this year. Of course, I'm not sure that had as much to do with the economy as it did with mismanagement, and according to some corruption. I understand that they're starting back up again, but I would encourage our viewers to be a bit wary of that situation.
There on the left side of the screen, you can see some of the piles that I was able to push up and Tim could grab with the Grapple. This gives you a good idea of what it looked like all over this patch before I came through with the power rake.
If I've got to haul a load to the brush pile, I might as well be tilling while I'm on the way. I think there's more contraction to come in the compact tractor and attachment world. We had a huge boom that started basically when I got my tractor in 2014.
Our neighbor Ann really liked our little electric ATV. She rode it around several times.
This boom continued to grow and grow and grow, and then COVID hit and exploded to the upside. Now with the inflation that we've seen, the higher prices are bringing us all back to reality. I don't have any specific insight into particular tractor manufacturers, but I think it's pretty likely that a few manufacturers, more than one, will decide that it's not a profitable industry and move on to something else. Which ones? Well, let me hear your comments. What do you think? The mini excavator left this property a little bit rough, but I would have to say they did a great job of cleaning out the stumps and a lot of the roots. Much better than what I anticipated, and this Toughline tiller lived up to its name, getting rid of the rest of them. Handling a project like this, it's great to have the right attachments, but the number one thing you need is determination and persistence. If you've got a tractor with just some basic attachments, while it may take a little longer than the perfect attachment, you'll eventually get it done. We didn't sign up for the seeding of this project. We're going to leave that to Ann and her family, but we're going to try to get it ready for seeding. I told her she could use a little spinner seeder, a little hand seeder, and then she could drag something around like a pallet with her 1023E to cover it up and smooth it all out. And that would work just as well as a professional. What a difference. We've worked maybe 2.5, 3 hours on this. And these drone shots show that it looks pretty good. At this point, I'm just going in random directions trying to catch some of the areas that Either I haven't hit at all, or maybe I've hit only once. Meanwhile, most of it looks like a garden.
Well, it looks a little different than it did when we started, wouldn't you say, Christy?
Absolutely.
And it went pretty fast once we got tools that made it a little more efficient. This is a case where persistence would have paid off. You could have used almost any attachment that'll tear up ground at all, and you could have got this job done. Christy and I talked about we could have used a landscape rake, went out across there and tried to pull all the brush out with a landscape rake. Not quite as optimal as what we did because they kind of get choked up inside and you end up having to pull stuff out of them. We could have done it all with the grapple and the disc like we showed to the start of it, but that wasn't going to go near as fast and was not going to leave it as nice as we got here. It's just fascinating to me that Christy and I always fall back to our two favorites. Christy falls back to that power rake on Vinny, and I fall back to a tiller. I really enjoy a tiller. Now, it's not like I don't like the power rake and she doesn't like the tiller. I'm just saying that we love those two attachments, especially in combination. You know, we were with the grapple and the power rake and the tiller, we were able to do a lot of different kinds of things, a lot of versatility here. I wasn't sure that the tiller would be up to the task of just handling all those roots. I did slip the slip clutch a few times, but it's no worse for wear. So the company may be out of business, but tiller still works. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
It is a sin to despise one's neighbor, but blessed is the one who is kind to the needy.